All right, thank you everybody for coming. I am Acting Chief Trupos. Uh,
You're welcome.
I'm Acting Chief Trupos. We called a press conference here to address uh, the death and passing of Braxton Garcia, an officer of the APD. Dear members of our community, it is with a heavy heart that I speak to you today about the tragic events that took place a few nights ago. One of our police officers shot an innocent member of the public, and in the aftermath was fatally shot by other members of our police department. I want to start by expressing my deepest condolences to the victim, to their family, and to their loved ones. The injury and suffering is a tragedy, and when it is a result of incident involving law enforcement, it is especially heartbreaking. I also want to acknowledge the fear and anger that many of you are feeling right now, and assure you that we are committed to a thorough and transparent investigation. First and foremost, let me say that what happened was unacceptable. The use of deadly force by police officers is a responsibility that should never be taken lightly, and it is clear that this officer had failed in that duty. The actions of this officer do not reflect the values or the training of our department, and we will hold ourselves accountable for our failures that led to this tragedy. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, other members of our police department acted to protect the community and their fellow officers. I want to commend them for their bravery in the face of an incredibly difficult situation. However, the decision to use deadly force against a fellow officer is not one that any of us take lightly. We understand that this will have a profound impact on our department and on our community we serve. Moving forward, we will be conducting a thorough investigation into what happened, including a review of our policies, procedures surrounding the use of force. We will also be working closely with community leaders to ensure that we take appropriate steps to rebuild trust between law enforcement and the public. Once again, I want to express my deepest condolences to the victim, their family, and loved ones, and to the entire community that have been impacted by this tragedy. We will do everything in our power to ensure that justice is served and that we work to prevent such a tragedy from ever happening again. Thank you. Any questions?
What is the uh, disciplinary action you're taking to the police officer that shot the civilian?
Well, just to clear that up, uh, Mr. Braxton Garcia shot a civilian and then took shots after running away at fellow officers and was fatally shot by one of our officers, and so he is no longer
I'm
with
sorry,
us.
I did word that wrong. I meant the police officer who shot Mr. Braxton. Sorry.
Uh, at the moment, with the investigation that we have conducted thus far, it does seem that it was a justified shooting, and so he has been on administrative leave as the investigation on him was ongoing. But at this time, he is currently back in duty, and I do not feel that any more disciplinary action is required.
Okay, that's all.
Any other questions?
The person behind me got one.
Yeah.
Well, Melina just asked one.
Oh, I'm
We
sorry.
are going to be going through our SOP and making it more clear about use of force. Though I do believe that this was a special case that caused this to happen, as Mr. Garcia had just been sued and was millions of dollars in debt, and he was in a very stressful situation, and I feel that he most likely just snapped under the pressure. We will be taking measures to look after our officers and make sure that the stress that is accumulated just by this job in general does not push them to a breaking point, and that they are given administrative leave before we get to that point, and we will be keeping a closer eye on all of our officers to make sure that they are doing well mentally. Yes, his debt was due to an unlawful force case, and he did receive disciplinary action after that fact. But that was something that has been resolved in the courts. I do think it is connected to what happened, but there is no way to tell what part of it was lingering bad training and what part of it was stress due to the millions of dollars of debt he found himself in, as well as the ridicule from uh, shooting someone in that event. He was ridiculed by the public at that time. Uh, Obviously, I'm not excusing his actions, but just trying to explain some of the circumstances in which he snapped and obviously was fatally shot by our officers. Uh, Zoe?
I was just wondering, what are you gonna do to reduce the stress of other officers so they don't go through psychotic breaks like that? Besides administrative leave, because obviously that's not working.
Well, we do want to have a more robust attorney that we can rely on for cases like Mr. Garcia's, as well as a longer training period. Now that we are no longer desperate for officers, I want to be able to train them for a longer period of time, so that way that they're not just thrown into situations, that they're able to rely more on their training because they'll have more of it to rely on.
I have one more. Sorry.
Yep.
What would you think about having, say, weekly or even monthly, have your officers see a shrink, just in case if like any of them are dealing with something, then they have the shrink to go to.
I mean, currently, all the officers have been let they have been informed that there is a therapist that we are willing to pay for them to go see. Uh, it is not something that's currently mandatory, but that is something that we will consider and look into.
What should a citizen such as myself do if found myself in such a situation where I'm at the barrel end of a policeman's gun?
Well, we would hope that something like this does not repeat, but in that situation, uh, if you if it's you believe it to be unjust, uh, there you always have the option of self-defense. Just know that there is, in any case of self-defense, there is possibly repercussions of court action after the fact. So it is a very tentative situation, and I would advise that you have a Second Amendment right for a reason. And if somebody is coming at you without the authority of law, and even if they're in uniform, if they do not have the law backing up their actions, you are free to defend yourself, but you will have to provide information to a court thereafter that you were justified in your actions of deadly force, just as a police officer has to do when they uh, implement deadly force. But as always, I would recommend to try to run and hide if that is an option, and call other officers onto the scene, because we try to police ourselves just as much as we police the community. Any other questions?
Um, I do. So, just to clarify, you're not just gonna, cause you guys already put people on leave and maybe redid training theoretically, and this is the you did it twice and it didn't work and this led to an officer shooting a civilian?
Well, in this case, there was a single action that was found to be unjust by the court. Uh, that he believed that he was following his training and made a mistake. He was still a new officer at the time. We retrained him and then put him back out on the street after his retraining. And then this was the second thing that had happened. If he had survived this uh, altercation, he would have had legal action pressed against him by the police department and would have been let go.
Okay, that makes me feel better. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I do once again give my condolences to the victim and to everyone who was affected by this tragedy. Uh, we will strive to do our best to make sure that our officers are taken care of and that they are in a suitable situation to be able to take care of our community. And we will be vigilant about any other officers that seem to be exhibiting behaviors that we saw this time around. Thank you all again for coming. Uh, God bless Texas.
With his own hands brought down angels from the promised land.
What happened to the officer?
Mr. Bennett, you want to let people out as they leave? All right. So, what part were we about to talk about again? Sorry, I was focused on the press conference.
Well, um, why does it say my canon's still out when it's not? I just realized that. Um, I think this